Hi, I'm Ella, also known as Handmade Millennial, and this is the sew-along tutorial for ME2033. To tell you a little bit about this pattern, it has a really unique wavy color blocking feature to a two-piece set, both a square neck crop top and a elasticated back pant, barrel-like shaped pant. So it's a little bit wider through the middle and tapers a little at the bottom. We're going to be sewing curves in this, obviously, to connect all of the color block pieces, which is a lot of fun, and I'm going to have some tips further for you in the video about how best to sew curves. Both staple knits or wovens work very well. This version has linen, and I'm going to be using two types of linen today. And this version is actually made from some fleece, almost a little bit lighter than sweatshirting fleece. I was just really inspired and love color blocking. Like, I love smashing together different color combinations and kind of choosing things that are fun and bright and bold and modern and hip. And I really love that the design, like on the leg and on the wave on the top, the design goes all the way around and continues from front to back. And then, yeah, I tried to show a couple different ways to choose colors on here as well, like two kind of brighter versions, or actually, I kind of think blush pink is a neutral, but I know it's not a neutral for everyone. So you can see a little bit of a brighter version or a version with one neutral and a color, or today I'm going to be using two neutrals, a black linen and a white linen, so you can see the result of that effect as well. But I just love color. I love bright and it's particularly solids, but I actually think it'd be really cool to have the accent piece possibly in a print. Could be really fun if it works well with the color of the main fabric. And it's great as well because these color block pieces, like, you could probably fit those on some scrappier cuts if you've got, maybe a half yard or 3/4 of a yard of fabric. Depending on your size, you might be able to fit the accented pieces on something like this if you're trying to use up some scraps. First up, we're going to cut two of the pants front, and you'll notice on my pieces that have the color blocking curve that I carefully marked a stitch line on those. We'll need two of these. I also have two of the pants side front that goes with those. We'll need two of these. We will need two pants side back, pattern piece number 3, and then we'll need two pants side back. Very careful handling those curved pieces. If you'd like to do pockets, we're going to need 4 pocket pieces. One front waistband cut on the folds and marked. One back casing also cut on the folds in the main color. More in our contrast fabrics, we have one top front with the dart marked and the stitch line also marked. Handle very carefully. We have just one top back in our contrast fabric. Back to our main fabric, we have one top side front. And you'll notice I mark which pieces are the front and the back because it's a little bit confusing, especially when it comes to those leg pieces. And then we have another top side back this time. We will have two facing pieces, one for the back and one for the front. Both of the facings should be in the same contrast fabric. For view B, we have two cap sleeves, but if you're doing view A, you would not cut these, of course. And that's it. So the first thing we're going to do is to take all of the pieces that are part of the main color blocking like this, and we're going to run a stay stitch along the inner curved edges so that this part doesn't get stretched out in the sewing process. It's really easy for the stretching to happen, especially if you're using a fabric like I am with linen. It can stretch very easily. So we're going to run a normal stitch within the seam allowance close to the stitching lines that we've marked, just to hold the fabric in place. Because we have a curved line here, there's a lot of bias introduced, and that's what can create all of the stretching. So handle it very carefully and do this for all of these main color block pieces. So you can see this is what the stay stitching looks like in a contrast thread. It's within the seam allowance on this side, and it goes all the way around. It's just normal stitch without stretching. Okay, we're gonna put aside the pieces for the pants now, and then we're going to take the bodice front pieces and stitch the darts in those. So I've got this bodice front and the bottom bodice front that we're going to fold. Well, first we'll make sure that we're aligning them correctly and folding the darts on the correct side. So I'm going to go ahead and press, iron, and then stitch these. When I hit the last centimeter of my darts, I stop the last little bit of point at the end, and I'm going to switch to a stitch length of 2.0 instead of 2.5. And just do the end at this smaller stitch length and kind of curve the edge a bit. And I do not backstitch. That's how it looks. And remember to put this back to 2.5 and then tie this off. I like to then take the darts after they've been stitched and handling very carefully. I'm going to press it down and then give it a little iron with a bit of steam. And then if you have something kind of round that you can ball up and use, or if you have a tailoring ham, I like to just take a little ball of fabric as if it was a breast, and give that a little steam, create that rounded shape. And there is our little bust dart. Our next step is to take those two pieces with the bust darts, the top front to the side front, and we're going to put them right sides together and pin them together. We'll do this really carefully, making sure that we match our notches, most importantly. And that we just pin a lot. One thing that I'll do for these particularly bunchy looking spots is to clip into those curves before we even sew. Just in the most curvy spots. Release some of that tension. Okay, so if you haven't sewn curves before, it can be a little tricky. So here's a couple tips, a couple optional tips. I like to reduce my stitch length down to from a 2.5 to a 2.0. With these smaller stitches, it allows a little bit more mobility. I also recommend pinning a lot. Pin the shit out of it, as Minimalist Machinist says. You can see I'm doing like 1 pin for every centimeter or so. And then if you're still having trouble after all of that, another thing you can do is to actually reduce the seam allowance before you sew. So right now we have a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. You could do like 2 or 3/8 of an inch if you'd like. So cut that seam allowance in half and then clip into it, pin the shit out of it, smaller seam allowance. Those are all things that really help to prevent the puckering in sewing curves. Another tip, if you're a little bit nervous about sewing your first curve and you're worried about puckers, it might be best to start with a leg piece. So take 2 of the bottom right or left leg pieces and try with that first. So from here, I've just clipped into my seam allowance, and now I'm going to take this over to the serger. I'm going to serge this, and then we're going to press it with the seam allowance going downwards. I'm going to stitch just slowly along the stitch line that we marked. And yes, I sew over my pins, don't come at me. Slowly ease and just really watch the fabric that's underneath, because that's where the puckering may come in. Keep adjusting it every once in a while. Okay, crew, here we are. Doesn't it look good? Overlocked on the inside and nice, crisp, clean on this side. The next step is to do the exact same thing for the top back pieces. So we're going to piece the top to the bottom for the color block parts of the back of the top. We've got our bodice back here, and we're going to lay it right sides together with our bodice front. And now we're going to stitch along the side seams at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. On the, when wearing would be left side of the bodice, don't forget to have these 2 pieces notch up just right so that the wave contrast shape can be continuous. I'm going to make sure that these 2 pieces match up perfectly and that the seam allowances go downwards. Now that our side seams are stitched, we're going to do the exact same for our shoulder seams. Don't forget to match the notches, and then we're going to stitch along here and here, both at a 5/8 of an inch seam allowance. So now I'm just pressing to the side, the side seams that we sewed, and also these shoulder seams. There you go. At this point, I would probably try on your top to see how it fits, and make any adjustments at the side seam or the shoulder seams if anything feels off. At this point, take your two facings, and if you haven't marked your stitch line for the square neckline, I recommend making sure you do that. And then also it's time to interface them if you would like to interface. To stitch them together, we're going to pin and stitch at both the sides of both and then the shoulder seams as well, with right sides together. Don't forget to match the notches. Now that we've got these pieces together, you're going to want to go ahead and finish the edges of the top shoulders and the sides, as well as all around the entire bottom edge. So you can do that with a zigzag or an overlock or whatever you prefer. All right, next up we've got our top right side out and our facing wrong side out, and then you're going to want to identify which part of the facing is front and back, and then we're going to connect them right sides together. So putting the facing over the main top, and then we're going to pin them in place all around the inner neckline, matching these seam lines. Alright, I'm going to take that out and very gently, following the stitch line that I have marked, stitch until I reach that small corner dot exactly. Lift up the presser foot, rotate the project 90 degrees, put it back down, keep going. That's going to ensure the good straight square neckline. And then the next important step here, we've got this, right? We're going to take this corner and clip right into, up to, but not touching the actual stitching. We're going to do that on all four sides. We're going to trim these seam allowances so that they have less bulk. I'm going to go around the entire neckline with a good trim. And then we are going to understitch the seam allowances down as much as possible. So this is the front side of the main top out and the wrong side of the facing out. I'm going to open it up like this and push the seam allowance towards the facing, and then stitch on the right side of the stitching. I'm going to stitch just align here, holding the seam allowance to the facing so that when we fold this over, it won't roll out onto the main part of the garment. So we're going to do that around the entire neckline, and then after that, we'll give it a good press. And we're going to back stitch and then stitch that line right next to the line of the stitching, but to the right as close as we can get. We're going to take that facing and fold it inwards, tucking it inside the top. And then go ahead and give that a good press. So now we have both sleeves. Make sure you have your 3 dots transferred. And then we're going to stitch this side seam here. And then finish the edges of the seam there. And after you've done that, we're going to baste this in the round to keep these together in the correct place. Within the seam allowance, matching the notches. And the seams. Okay, so now that that's basted, we're gonna take this right sides together and match the middle dot to the middle of the seam there. To ease this, I'm really just pulling on it. Next step, it's time to do a narrow hem on the sleeves. So I have the wrong side up of the sleeve here, and I'm simply going to fold it in once around and press that, and then fold it over one more time and get it ready to stitch a narrow hem. You don't need a sleeve board like I have. You can definitely just do this on your ironing board. And when I'm done, it'll look like this. Fold it over twice. As our last step on the top, I went ahead and took the hem and folded it over twice and gave that a really good press on towards the wrong side. We're going to stitch this in place, and then our top is done. cut those loose threads and call it. I need to actually change my bobbin thread. I have white bobbin thread in here. And that's it. All right, everybody, let's give her a good press. And the top is done. This top is looking really good, and now it's time to get a head start on the pants. So the first thing we're going to do would be preparing it in a similar style to what we did with the color blocked pieces of the shirt. So if you haven't yet run your stay stitch along all 8 pieces of the legs, go ahead and make sure you do that. I've already stay stitched these at the same time that I did the top. And now, making sure that you have back pieces to back pant and front pieces to front pant, because the shapes of these are similar enough that you could get them back to front mixed up, and then you'll have a lot of trouble easing them together. So make sure you have the right pieces. And go ahead and, same as we did before, we're going to start pinning these together, matching notches, and then just easing those curves. And then go ahead and take all 4 pieces to your machine, same as we've done for both right and left, front and back, making sure that you also have right and left legs. And when I say you make sure you have right and left legs, make sure for both pant pieces, back pant and front pieces, that you have them right sides up, reflecting each other. Not that you have 2 like this. I have made way too many pairs of pants where I had 2 left legs, and we're not going to do that today. And it's very easy if you have a fabric that's the same on both sides to make that mistake as you're doing the color blocking, and to like make 2 left legs. So ensure that, and then go ahead and stitch those and come back to us when all 4 pieces have their color blocked pieces combined and sewn together. You can finish your pant legs however you'd like, but for me, I'm going to now take these to serger or run a little zigzag or overlock stitch around the sides fully of all 4 pant pieces. So from the top of the crotch all the way through to the hem and the side of all 4 pant pieces. I'm going to finish the seams now and then come back. So go ahead and take your pocket bag pieces, all 4, and finish along the edges of those, and then also go ahead and finish the side seams of your pants as well. Now that we have our finished pant legs and pocket bags, let's go ahead and align each pocket bag to pant leg right sides together, matching the dots that we have on the legs and the pockets, and then stitch from the top all the way to the end of the pocket on all 4 pant pieces. All right, now I've got my pant leg right sides up, and we're gonna give this little press over here on all 4 pant legs, pressing the seam allowance towards the pocket. And then we're going to take this to the machine and do a small line of understitching on the side of the pocket all the way down, just to prevent the pocket bag from rolling out once we have them in the pants. So small line of understitching along each pocket bag. That's what it looks like understitched now. Okay, now we're going to stitch the side seam of our pant legs together. We're going to take one front and one back leg and put them right sides together. And we're going to pin along the pocket bag side all the way down, making sure we align these edges of the color blocking very carefully so that is seamless later when we open it up. And then we're going to stitch this side above the dot to the top, and then also from this dot all the way down and around here. So I'll show you how that looks. So the first thing we're going to do here is to stitch from here to here, the top of the pocket bag opening. Back stitch. Oh, hold on. Okay, and then we're going to start at the top of the pocket bag. And go all the way around. And then we're going to close this gap from here to the dot. I'm going to back stitch here to just provide a little extra security. And then right with the needle in the dot, we're going to lift the presser foot, pivot, place it back down, and then finish the rest of the side seam. Okay, and then just remove these pins. It's hard to see in the black, but I'll mark with chalk. So this is where the stitch line, that's the stitch line that I have at that V where we pivoted the fabric. And we're gonna go ahead and clip into this triangle right up to the stitch line, but not through. It's a little risky. Ooh, I got some dull scissors. This is risky. Okay. Right up to the stitch line. And that gives the pocket bag a little bit of room to move and angle. And there we have it. A proper pocket bag. All right, go ahead and do that with both legs. All right, we're going to take the pants and open up the pocket towards the front pant. And then go ahead and smooth this and give it a nice press. And then I recommend you go ahead and press the entire seam, but we're also going to take this pocket and baste it to the front leg. So I'm going to go ahead and pin it and then head to the machine and run a little baste stitch to hold these together. But before we do that, I'll just go ahead and press the rest of the seam. up, for each leg, we're going to fold them right sides together. And then we're going to stitch from the hem to the bottom of the crotch and not stitch this actual crotch line. We're going to just do each leg from here to here, making sure to align the color blocked pieces very carefully. So we're going to take one of these legs and turn it right side out. And the other one will remain wrong side out. And if you haven't already, I recommend giving each seam that you've sewn a very good press. And then we're going to take the right side out leg and stick it inside the leg that is wrong side out. And there we go. There's our two legs. And now we're going to match the inseam with the seams split open. Pin that in place. And pin all the way up here to the edges of each seam, matching the notches. And then we're going to go around and stitch this entire seam, and then we're actually going to stitch it twice. We're going to reinforce it by stitching it once at the normal seam allowance and then once at a 1/4 inch away from that, all the way around again. So our next step is that we're going to run a stay stitch around the entire length of the top of the pants to prevent it from stretching any. So I'm just going to run a quick stitch within the seam allowance all the way around. Okay, so it's time to work on the waistbands. If you haven't already, go ahead and interface one piece of your front waistband. Here in my version, I'm actually underlining with a piece of canvas because I like a really stiff, firm waistband, so I'm going to give this a try. Take both waistband pieces and put them right sides together. And we're going to pin and stitch along the top edge of this waistband. Alright, so that top edge only has been stitched. And now we're going to open it up and we're going to press this with the seam allowance towards the part that has not been interfaced. And then after we do that, we're going to run a quick understitch along this section of the waistband on the side that has not been interfaced. Next up, we have the back casing piece. This is the front of the waistband, and this gets folded and is the back. So we're going to take right sides together and match up these two pieces, matching the dots and notches. And then we're going to take them to the machine and stitch along this side and that side, so either side. So we're back to the waistband. I'm going to grade these side seams a little bit for bulk, but that is optional. And then we're going to take on the back casing the side that is unnotched, which is connected for me to the interband facing side, and we're going to fold it up by 5/8 of an inch. First finger pressing, and then we're going to take it to the iron and press this down properly. And then I want you to grade it down to 3/8 of an inch seam allowance with your scissors. So this is the pants with the right side out and the front facing up. We're going to match right sides together here, putting the pants within the waistband. And we're going to pin this all the way around and stitch this all the way around, matching our notches here and the side seams as well. All right, now we are going to turn this around and then actually fold it along the fold line to the inside. And take this seam allowance on the inside and fold it upwards towards the waistband and give it a good press and place. I'm going to go ahead and actually pin this with metal pins that will not melt with my iron. And just fold both of those seam allowances up into the waistband. Then our next step from here will be stitching in the ditch. So encasing this folded edge we have on the inside, encasing that. And so I'm just really making sure that this folded edge is covering the previously stitched line. There's no crease. We're pressing this open. All right, here is my front waistband. This part we will stitch around the bottom of the waistband, and that will be enclosed. And in the back is where we're going to insert some elastic, and it will be gathered in the back. So we're going to leave little side openings on the inside here on both right and left sides to be able to insert the elastic and stitch it down. So for now, I'm going to start at about an inch to the right of the front side seam and start stitching along the stitch line, stitching in the ditch, and catching that back fold of waistband. So as I'm sewing, I'm going to be feeling to making sure that I have that bit of waistband cut, and then we're going to stop about 1 centimeter from the side seam on the other end. And it's really important for this step to make sure that your thread, your top thread, is a really good match to your fabric because it'll be very visible. Helps to also go slowly. Which for someone like me, going slow takes practice and reminders. And I like being slow. Look back at how I'm doing. It's looking pretty good. All right, the front has been done. And now we're going to leave a little inch and a half, enough room to put in your elastic gap, and then do the back waistband in the same manner, leaving a similar gap on the other side as well. So we have the top of our pants with the waistband fully stitched down. I gave it a little press, and we have 2 openings on either side on the inside of our pants. Go ahead and find the pattern piece for the elastic guide. This is mine. I actually shortened it a little bit by nearly 2 inches for my personal waist size, but it will depend on yours. Feel free to adjust and put a safety pin through to help us guide the elastic. Now, with the back pant facing up, I'm going to insert this here and start to push the elastic through. And as we pull through, we're going to stop here, and at the side seam, you can see here of the waistband, I'm going to leave about 5/8 of an inch of the elastic towards the front waistband. And we're going to pin this in place and secure that. And then do the same for the other side. We're going to continue pulling the elastic through the back waistband casing. Until we reach the other side. There we are. I'm going to pull this edge through and remove our little bit of safety pin. Got caught on the thread there. And same as the other side, secure it with the elastic going about 5/8 of an inch towards the front waistband. And then pin it in place. And you may want to base this and then try it on and see how tight you need the elastic depending on where you want the pants to sit on your body. And that is what the back pants look like. They may be less gathered for you if your waist is a different measurement. So now I'm just going to stitch in the ditch at the side waistband piece here to secure the elastic. And I'm going to do the same on this side. I've taken my pants at the hem and folded them under twice towards the wrong side. The official hem is actually about 1 1/4 inches, so a 1/4 inch and then fold over 1 inch. I tried these on, decided I want them to fit a little bit longer on me this time, so I'm going to just sew this now. Oh, and I need to change my bobbin color first. There we go. And after you do that to the next leg, you are all done, friends.